Bilal Sayoud has been a member of the Freshly Grounded family now for the last month. If you watch Current Events, which is our show run by the slightly younger members of our team, you will now know about Bilal, who filled in for Nadir when Nadir went away to Morocco. This week is going to be his last week filling in, and I wanted to make sure that I did an episode with him so you guys get to know Bilal on a deeper level. We spoke about his career in football as a professional footballer and what it was like getting released, but we also spoke about so many other things, touching on everything from religion to family life and, yes, marriage. I think you guys will really enjoy this episode. We got a deep dive into Bilal and we had a lovely chat at like 10 o'clock at night. And so you'll hear probably the tiredness in our voices because we're going straight to bed after this. I'm going straight home. Bilal's going straight home, praying Isha first. And then we're going to head off. I think you'll enjoy this episode of Freshly Grounded. It's number 246, which is just 4 away from our 250th episode. And if you keep a close eye on our social media channels, we might be doing something special for episode 250, so do keep a very close eye on that. But for now, here's episode 246 of Freshly Grounded. Enjoy.
And welcome to Freshly Grounded, the brand new podcast.
Well, it's not exactly brand new anymore, is it?
Welcome to Freshly Grounded, the podcast.
That's better.
Created by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Huh?
I said welcome to Freshly Grounded.
After that bit.
Created by
After that bit.
best friends Faisal and Sam.
Really?
Okay, we're on. Assalamu alaikum, Bilal.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you doing, bro?
I'm okay, bro. How are you?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Are you relaxed?
Yeah, very relaxed.
Yeah, because technically speaking, you should be used to this.
Yeah.
How many episodes do you? This week will be your 4th episode of Current
Fourth
Events.
one, yeah, that's correct.
And so actually, first of all, you should know way better. That mic should be way closer to your mouth.
You're right.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, man. How's it been, bro? Like, how had you done anything like on video, like to that extent before? Or
I've done previous, like back when I was younger with football. I used to do like interviews.
Yeah.
I was part of this thing called the Nike Academy.
Okay.
And they had loads, like millions of views. So I've done camera work before, not in a podcast as big as this, but I'm kind of used to the cameras.
You know what, bro? The interviews that footballers do are so funny.
Yeah.
Because you would think that footballers are like the most famous people. I think the measurement is like footballers, movie stars, basketball players. They're like the A-list musicians. They're like the A-listers, and then obviously like the hierarchy goes down, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Footballers are in the UK anyway at the very top. Maybe perhaps in America, it's like basketball players, sports-wise. And considering that's the case, it's insane how untrained they seem. Like, do they not get any media training? Like, the interviews, or is it just that? Or is it like, for example, fighters after a boxing match or after a MMA fight? Like they just gone like 12 rounds. They've been punched in the face. The last thing they want to do is give an interview. So it's like, what is it, bro? Because they all seem so bad.
I think they're so well media trained that they become so like generic and robotic.
That's very good. Yeah.
And it's like they've got the emotions sucked out of them. And how many like footballers, like in general, do you see that they express? Obviously there's there's people, they express their emotion, but for the most part they're all like, oh yeah, today was a good game. There's no emotion to it, and you don't really get like a sense of who that person is.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I also think that now that you say that, first of all, they're probably told what they can't say, and so that limits them a lot.
Yeah.
And also I think that perhaps, this is all guessing, perhaps they might see the media as like them. So it's like them versus us, because it's true that the media, they just want to get headlines, and it's so unapologetic. They don't care who they upset, one day this person's a hero, next day they're a villain. And when you learn that, and probably when you're that famous, you probably had articles written about you that are great, and then articles written about you that like frame you as like a evil person, and then you start looking at these people interviewing you and going, you don't even deserve, like, it's not like you're speaking really to the fans, even though you are, because fans are watching, because obviously the fans, they support you, and they who, I suppose, like if it wasn't for their support and their love, perhaps you wouldn't be where you're at. But you can do that now as a footballer for your personal channels, through social media. You can directly speak to the fans.
You can have your own say. But I'd say, like, with media and football in general, it's very, very fickle. Like you said, one week you can be a hero, next week you can be the scum of the earth. That's how it is. It's very harsh and it's very brutal, especially when you're at that top level and you're scrutinized with every move. That's how it is.
Recently, I just to give a disclaimer, the whole episode is not going to be about football.
No,
because
that's not the aim.
We're going to lose like our core audience base. We're like, why? But there is something we should talk about, which is like very briefly your journey, which I know perhaps you've spoken about to like a more of an extent elsewhere. But obviously you were a professional footballer. You still are like a semi-professional footballer, but you were professional in the sense that you played for a club that was your full-time like living. And recently an article came out with The Athletic, or by The Athletic, with Jack Wilshere.
Great article.
Yeah. And the article was about him at being at the level that he's at, and being someone who was a household name and the next big thing a few years ago, played for Arsenal, played internationally for England, to get to the point where he started, where he had no club, training by himself. He then obviously got a 6-month contract with Bournemouth. That expired. And with a new management like Scott Parker and all that, he was saying that he didn't end up getting his contract renewed. And so he's back to like training by himself, and he was talking about a lot of regret he had and stuff like that. You've had a similar journey in that you played for, it was a League One team.
Yeah, League One team. Yeah.
League One, which for those of you who are like me, only a few months ago, are like novices to football, there's a Premier League, which is like the names that you've obviously heard: Man U, Arsenal, Chelsea, although Arsenal just about in. And then there's Championship, which is like at the moment Bournemouth, I was going to say Brentford, Fulham,
them kind of teams, yeah.
And then there's League One, which is still an EFL league.
Yes.
And that's where you were at with
Coventry City.
Yeah. Which is a very well-known team.
Yeah, they're in the Championship right now, actually.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And then, so you were playing with them in their first team.
Yeah.
And then...
More so the under-23s, but I was involved with the first team as well, yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
And then so at what point did that end?
So just to give like a bit of backstory before that. So like I mentioned before, I was playing with this team called the Nike Academy, and it was a very big program. Like if you were my age growing up, you knew about the Nike Academy.
Okay.
And that was all I was watching. And then I spent 2 years there. I trialed with clubs all over the world: Spain, Sweden. I was at Inter Milan for 2 weeks on trial there after we played them. And then that all came together where I signed a professional contract for Coventry City, and that was for 3 years. And those 3 years, it just went by in a flash. Honestly, the amount of stuff that I saw behind the scenes with football, it really opened my eyes to it all, and it's something that will always stay with me forever, because like there's a stat that's out there where it says whoever who signs a professional contract at the age of 16, by the age of 23, 98% of the people that do that, they're not even playing any level of football professionally ever, anywhere in the world. And when I heard that stat when I was 18, I was naive to it. I was like, yeah, like that's never going to be me, like as you do think when you're younger. But it's crazy how that stat still rings true to me to this day, and how the experiences in football have shaped like my life, and just in the sense that, how can I explain it? I'm kind of like backtracking. Sorry, bro. My bad.
No, it's fine. But what you're saying makes sense because we this is going to sound like I'm name dropping now, but I'm not. But I went to school with I went to the same school as Jadon Sancho.
Yes.
And it was a sports academy that I went to, which is weird because I'm really not too much of a sporty person. But in that academy were obviously loads of people who were like some of the best in the country in their sport. So table tennis, people who were like they were being trained for the Olympics, basically swimmers, gymnasts, and footballers, and a lot of them ended up in like amazing places. Like but most of them didn't. Like most of them didn't end up in the Olympics, even though they were at one point like the number one under-16s table tennis champion, or like the number one gymnastics. And then something happens where, like you said, it's almost like as the years go on, it becomes tighter and tighter and more difficult and more difficult. And on top of that, you have to have upkeep and all of that kind of stuff. And within that, obviously, like I said, with the footballers, and there's some names that came out of that school, like Jadon Sancho, who obviously now is signed with Man U, and there's a few who play for like there's few who play for like the Irish league, and stuff like that.
But you only hear about the success stories. You never hear about the failures.
Well, like I said, so many of them, like because it was a sports academy, majority of people there were like this, and majority of them are now in normal jobs and stuff like that. So what you're saying, I think, rings very true, and is something that's been very well kind of like noted before.
It's for me as well. Who I surrounded myself with when I was like that age, 16 to 20, everyone was a footballer. Everyone was aspiring to make it to the Premier League, the Championship. If I look back at those same people now, I couldn't tell you maybe 70-80% of them are even still playing football at any level. And it's like I said, you only hear about the success stories in that industry as well. It's all about who's made it. No one cares about the other side of the spectrum.
Yeah. So let's round off this football discussion, because I'm conscious that I want to go into so many other things with you. So you were at Coventry City for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then how did that end?
So I got to the age of 21 where I was really close. Like I was this close to actually making a breakthrough into the first team. Like I made my debut and stuff. But it's going to sound cliche, but I got injured with my ankle, and that caused me to miss about the last 3 months of the season. And it kind of stalled my progress. And when it got to the end of the season, I was always told I was going to get another contract. That would be all right. But then when it came to it, they just said, we don't see you as being part of the first team. So they just let me go. And after that, I kind of dropped into non-league. And I remember I was having a conversation with you about non-league, and you was amazed by it. And you was curious about how you can still make an income in that kind of league. And not many people know about it, but the level that I'm playing at right now, it's not full time. It's not an income where I can sustain myself month to month. So I do combine that with a full-time job, and I've been doing that for the last 2 years. And I'm still aspiring to go like back into the professional game. And it's still a good level, to be fair. Like we still get crowds coming to watch. All of my friends come. Zach Bendiff comes here and there. But yeah, that's kind of been my journey so far.
That's amazing, man. When you are dropped though, I can imagine for so many people, this is like the dream. And then when you get closer and closer to that dream, and it becomes more real and more real, and then you get to the point where you've actually achieved it, like you had, to then go from that to straight away not having a team again. Is there anything that they do in terms of aftercare to help you manage that mentally? Nothing
at all, honestly.
So you just go home that day?
You just go home, and I'm not gonna lie, I was very disappointed. I had that's, like you said, that's my what I've been working for. I could say maybe the last 10 years of my life, and to have it all shattered, and then to not have any backup plan, any mental support, not even a text message or a phone call, like how you coping, is very brutal in that sense, and it's something that's not really is taboo in the football world, where they don't try and help the 98% that don't make it. It's just they, like, if I look back on it, if when I was in that age, maybe I would have taken a course alongside what I was doing with football, just as a backup plan to have, because not everyone's gonna be the Jadon Sancho, not everyone's gonna be the Cristiano Ronaldo, the Messi, and that's something that is very missed in the minds of a young footballer. They don't realize the reality of it, so it's very hard to deal with.
Yeah, and also gaining a skill, you see that the people who do have longevity in their careers are those people who picked up stuff along the way. So you could look at someone like Frank Lampard as someone who, you know, ended up getting dropped as a coach and stuff. But if you look past that, the fact that he became a coach of Chelsea after being a player is so rare. And it must show that while he was playing, he was thinking, right, I've got to have longevity in career. Let me pick up the skill set somewhere else. And in anything we do, sometimes we forget to pick up a skill set or just focus our attention on things or look to the future. And you can even see in other industries, like, it's funny, like the industries that come to mind, because I'm thinking of one is that, you know, when we were little and you'd watch wrestling and stuff.
Yeah.
And like the guy who basically like runs the company now is Triple H, who like was like but he must have, to an extent, like try to understand the business, because so many people must get dropped from there. Hundreds of employees.
Like, back then he was just a
wrestler,
a ring performer. That's what he was, and now he's the face of the company. From what it looks like, anyway.
I think that you have to always have in mind that a skill set is what makes you valuable. And if I simply rely on the value that I provide now, the worry is that what if that value goes? And the world moving forward with like AI and technology and like shops that no longer need staff like stacking shelves because robots do it for you, and there's more self-checkout systems and so on and so forth, and that's going to spread through every industry. It shows that you have to learn where you can provide value without simply the place that you provide value now. Otherwise it's always going to be short term. A nice kind of metaphor for it is obviously the football world, because you can see it so simply that you could go through a broken foot and your career's over. And you go from earning £100,000 a week to not having a salary at all and trying to manage that. And obviously the ones who are clever are those who invest and stuff like that. But even just investing in yourself with a skill set seems like such an important thing to do.
100%. And not just with me, but like say the more famous players, when they get to the end of their career, they all say they have a void that they can't fill, and they just sat at home. They don't really know what to do with themselves, because for the last 20 years they've been programmed to do one thing, which is football, and they haven't thought outside the box. And that's something I can definitely like take with me, like as wisdom. 100%.
That's why I fear retirement. I love doing things and I love what I do, and the idea of retirement is very scary because you have all of this time. You know, they say that when you have time, you are like, when it's just you it's like the shaitan is right by you.
100%.
And when you're with others, like he's further away, or at least when you're busy, you're keeping yourself busy from him and stuff, and you do feel that when you're like just free time. So I don't like the idea of that. I would always want to be working on some kind of project. I guess when I'm older, I wouldn't like to be relying on it as much financially. Like, I have to do this, otherwise I don't get a salary at the end of the month and I can't pay rent.
Of course.
But still something that I can build, that I can work towards. I suppose like seeking knowledge was one of those things, isn't it? Because when you're seeking knowledge, it's a lifelong thing. It never stops.
And that's something for me that I'd say for the last year or so, I've been really like deeply interested in, with trying to better my deen, trying to learn as much Quran as I can as possible, trying to like stay with people that are way more knowledgeable than me. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna say I'm the best in terms of that, but within the last year, it's really like I've really taken a deeper interest into that and thought about it long term, because at the end of the day, football or whatever industry it's all dunya at the end of the day. It's not distraction, because football or anything in life, if it can help you better your family and your situation, then that's only a good thing. But it's not the be all and end all. It's not the thing that that's gonna, like, as deep as it sounds, when you're in the grave, you're not gonna get asked about that. I'm not gonna get asked about how many goals I scored or how many appearances I made, and that's something that if you told me 2 or 3 years ago I would have thought about, I would have never like have thought about these kind of things. But it just shows like where my mind has gone after getting released and after like having disappointments and failures and stuff like that. I've always tried to turn back to Allah in whatever I do.
Well, if something has brought you closer to Allah, you is never a failure.
Yes.
And also, you especially, having been around you now over the last few weeks and getting to know you, I could never deem you as a failure. I was just, like I was saying to you off air, I think that there's so many elements that people have to balance in order to gain like a complete personality, and like none of us will ever be perfect, but I think the balance is what people struggle with, like 100%. All of us, me too. And that balance could be something like being really skilled at something, but then not knowing how to package that so you can provide value to others, or being someone who's like great at being patient and being, you know, firm and quiet through pain, but then not being able to balance that with being vocal and stuff like that. And so the point I'm making here is that you seem to have a great balance in a lot of things. So I don't think that a failure is a word you should ever associate with yourself.
For me, like, I always say this to my friends: getting released from my professional contract or whatever it was is the best thing that happened to me Islam-wise, because during that time when I was a football, without like saying, talking about my past, I wasn't in tune with the deen that like how I am now, and I think that would have never have happened if I didn't get released. And I always pointed to that event. So
it's great. It's amazing when you can like reflect back on things, isn't it? Because only through reflection do you find out why things happened.
100%.
Yeah, I wanted to bring out the game.
Yes.
Because I thought it'd be a perfect segue for conversation and hopefully spark some conversation as well. Have you played the game?
Oh, loads of times.
Oh, have you?
With my family, friends.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
What's your experience been like?
Very good.
Really?
Every time I played it, like, I remember I played it last Eid with my family.
Okay.
And there were things that I found out that I would never have found out about
Really?
my dad or my brother. So it's really like intuitive, and it's very revealing, especially with like your close family.
Yeah, it makes you ask questions or think about answers that you wouldn't normally consider in your day-to-day life.
Yes. Because the normal conversation with your family is, oh, how was your day? How was work? But then when you actually like gather around with the family and like you said, you're asking questions that don't necessarily come to mind. But when you pull out a card and it's there and you ask it, it can spark some very good conversations.
You know, there's this study that was done by psychologists, and what the study was is they put together 36 questions. And the study was something along the lines of, can you manufacture love? Can people fall in love on purpose rather than like love at first sight, or I fell in love with her? Can you manufacture it?
Yeah.
And I mean, the study was probably like nonsense, but the conclusion they came to, I think, was like yes, and they had like these 36 questions that that if you ask the other person, that you'll end up falling in love with them. And I only found this recently, and like way after we created this, but it really encapsulates what we were trying to create with this. We weren't trying to get people to fall in love, but we were trying to get people to ask questions that do help you connect with one another.
100%, yeah.
And I suppose we could take from their study, we're not exactly trying to make people fall in love, but in a way we are. You know, we want people to connect with each other on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And the questions were so similar to this game, which is really interesting. So I'm gonna now get to know you better. So
Vice versa.
yeah. All right, fine. We'll split it in that case. You can take part.
Actually, I probably know a bit more about you than you know about me. Listening to your episodes for so long.
Well, then this one's a good one, because the first question says, "What took you the longest to understand about me?"
Ooh, that's a good one. You know, I'll be honest, yeah, and you're gonna probably think like, why did he ever think that about me? But when I first started watching like your episodes,
Yeah.
I did think, and it's not in a bad way or anything like that. This is going to be funny.
No, hit me with it.
I had the thought in my head. It was like, why does this guy make things all about him? And that's what my first thought was. And it's a bad thought to think.
No, go on.
But then when I actually got to watch more episodes and then actually finally meet you, I should have never had that thought in the first place, because the way your mind is and the way how creative you are and how you try and bring the best out of everyone, like that's how your personality is.
Oh man, that means a lot. I don't think you should be. You have nothing to apologise for festivals. It's probably true, but also the thing that's really tough and that I've struggled with about, I suppose, like making your voice public.
Yeah.
Even if it's 200 people. So I'm not saying that the millions of people listen to Freshly Grounded what we say.
I'm sure it's hit that number.
but when you make your voice public, I found it hard to accept that it's like anything in life, it's open to interpretation and people's opinions are subjective. And I found that hard because I would get comments and I would be upset by them because, and I probably still do, because I would think to myself, oh man, that's not what I'm trying to do, or that's not me, and and those kind of things. And then I think, well, I'm probably like that. I probably follow people, and I'm not following them because I necessarily like them, not because I don't like them, but I nothing them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then why do I follow them? Because every time they post, I have an opinion on what they post. Even if I don't say the opinion, and hopefully I don't say the opinion because my Islam should stop me from... I still think it. It goes in my head. They'll put out a post and I'll think something. And then when I clocked myself actively doing that, I thought, wow, I'm doing something here. I'm giving a thought, and that thought for the most part is negative. Where does that negativity come from? And more often than not, it would come from making an assumption that it was easy to make. Like, it's so hard to think that this person is actually, I'm not talking about myself here, but it's so hard to think that this person is doing something exterior that is good. So what's easier to assume is that what this person is doing is, for example, obnoxious or arrogant. And then I was angry at myself. I was saying to myself, why am I making those kind of connections? Why can't I assume good? Why do I have these thoughts? And
it's the shaitan, man.
It is the shaitan. And shall I tell you what fixed it, bro? It was meeting those people.
Yes.
And I was really upset with myself. I met some of these people, and like I said, I didn't dislike these people too. I just nothinged them. And I even got annoyed at myself for nothinging them and not liking them. Because when I would meet them, they would just be so positive and so loving. And I've said to a few people in my time, and I've been so blessed to meet such amazing individuals, but I've said to a few people in my time, I wish people who follow you on social media all got to meet you in real life.
That's exactly what I said to Bendif.
Oh, really?
Because I remember the first time I come here, it's like I went home and I felt bad for ever thinking that thought in the first place. Because the way you made me feel welcome, and it's like the way you just embraced me like for who I was, and there was no like look at me in a different way. Like there was none of that. I didn't feel any of that. And I'm a big believer in like first impressions with people, and not like having vibes with someone, but you can just tell like from a person how they treat you and how they are and what kind of feeling they have to you. And that was my first thought when I first met you. I just went home and I was like, man, how did I ever think that about you?
No, don't think that. That's so kind, man. That's what I thought. I said to him, I said, I wish people would meet you in real life, because there's something about interacting with someone in person which is amazing, and it has a connection that's in real life, a real life connection.
You know what I tell you as well, and this is coming from me, any person that I've come across on social media that I may have like not a negative thought, but just like a side eye towards that person, every time I've met that person in real life, that feeling has never been in there. It's I don't know how to explain it. I don't know what social media does to the mind.
But that's the problem. What I was going to say is that 50 years ago, forget a few hundred years ago, or 40 years ago, 30 years ago, there was no such thing as being able to interact with people other than the people you'd interact with and you physically were with them. Not even even when I remember phones becoming a thing more when we got older, right? Yes, there was like your telephone phone, but like even when I was young, we had a phone. We just had one home phone and that was connected to the wire, you know, and connected to the internet meant that you can't use a phone, you can use it. So it was still very early days. So probably just before we were alive, you could only speak to people if you were with them. And how nice is that, you know?
I wish we could go back to them times, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's huge advantages in the opposite, but it does suck because it's horrible being on the end of thinking those thoughts, which I've been on, and it's horrible being on the other end where people think these thoughts of you, because sometimes like you can't help but victimize yourself or feel sorry for yourself, which is never a good thing to do. You should be stern and strong and not let these things affect you. But being human, you do think to yourself like, oh man, like I'm just a guy who's trying to like be good to my kids and trying to like build this thing and people got the wrong impression. But there's no point, because people always have that. And I'll take it back to something I said a few episodes back, which was me speaking to my teacher about this exact thing. And I was upset that someone on social media had made a comment about me that really upset me and just wouldn't leave me because of how untrue I felt it was. Yeah. And it felt like it goes against everything that I've been trying to do. And like this one comment that was kind of put out so loosely was like, Faisal was like this, for example. I'm like, what? Like that's that one. Like if there's anything that I would never want people to think of me is this, because I'm genuinely feel like I'm trying to build this thing for this reason, and definitely not this reason. And this is what I've clearly come across as, is that I'm doing it for these reasons. And it upset me. I spoke to my teacher. I couldn't shake it off, and he said, never feel upset at the things people say about you, because Allah didn't even reserve that for him. Subhanallah. He said even people say that Allah has a son. Subhanallah. One of the worst things you could say about him, and if he wanted, he could have stopped people saying he owns the whole world, but he didn't reserve that for him. So who are we? Exactly. And that's something that I take. For me, I'm different. I couldn't care less what someone say about me. I envy that. Like I've heard people say things about me which are nowhere near true, but I look at them and I laugh. Like I'm like, okay, you can think that about me, but it's not about what you think about me. It's what Allah thinks about me. And not to say that you don't think that. But it's just I've always had that in me. I don't care what people think. Like I'll just do whatever I want to, like whatever I need to do to please Allah. And then whatever I feel contributes to that. I'm not someone that takes. Obviously, I take the close friends and families and what they say to me. But if it was a random comment, it wouldn't bother me at all. Honestly. Yeah. May Allah preserve you in that, bro. I'm sure the person whoever commented, if they met you in real life, they would totally throw that out of the window. No, I think it's my fault. I think I read it in. You read things how you want to read things. Yeah, I could have probably read it in a really positive way, but that's the other bad thing. You can't see the facial expression, the mood the person was in, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's tough. Just going back on social media as well, I remember like I had a conversation with my dad. I think it was 2 Eids ago, where he was like, he said, I remember in my time when Eid, where I would have to physically visit someone to wish them Eid Mubarak. Yeah. You know how easy it is to pull up a phone and just some people out there, Allahu Alam, they use the same message over again. They copy and paste it. Yeah. I might fall into that. You might fall into that. Maybe even a voice note. Assalamu alaikum, bro. Yeah. Eid Mubarak. Man, it's been a long time since we was here. And then he said the point to me where it was like, social media makes people think that, like, if I were to visit you physically in person, you would value that a lot, right? Yeah. But then if I sent you like a voice note or a message, it wouldn't mean as much. Of course, yeah, the values. Yeah, that's a very good point. You know, and then it kind of like you look at people in a like, is he just sending that for the sake of it? Yeah. But it's a different time, of course, and I guess my dad and your dad's generation never had to deal with that, so no, that's an incredibly valid point, though. It's an incredibly valid point. All right, your turn. Let's go. Oh, this one is ask me anything. I promise to be vulnerable. Okay, that's a great one. Okay, I'll ask you one. Let me have a think. what impact do you want to leave on others? But be very specific.
Ooh.
Be as specific as you can be. Not just I want others to feel happy.
What impact I want to leave to others? I thought about this. Can it be like anyone or maybe my future children, inshallah?
Yeah, anyone.
I'd want them to think like with, for example, the experiences that I've had in football, I would never want someone to think that it's all rosy and it's all fun and games and it's all what someone should aspire to be. Because I'm not saying I've been to that level where I've experienced the highs of the elite football, but for me, I would want to have the impact on someone where there's more to life than that, and you shouldn't be taking like the footballers as per se role models. Like we should be looking at people that have studied the Quran and the Sunnah. That's what I believe, and that's the impact that's had on me with my experiences the last 3 years. And I wouldn't say like if for example my future son, he grew up and he took a liking to football, obviously I would encourage him with it, but I wouldn't give him the ball. Like he'd have to find his own way, if you know what I mean. And that's not to say, because that's exactly what my dad did. Like he encouraged me with football, but the impact that I'd want to leave on others is whatever you're doing like in this life, always revert back to like the Quran and the Sunnah, because that's the main thing that's going to matter in your grave and what's going to help you in this life. Because we see like the glitters of this world and we think, wow, like I want this, I want that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're chasing all that and you lose sight of what's to come in the hereafter, I think that's the big problem, and that's something that comes to mind when you ask that question.
Yeah, the so many people get distracted along the path, don't they?
Yeah.
That's why I love the quote that says that, like, seeking Allah or the Quran, trying to gain knowledge and all of that kind of stuff, that's the path that we want to be on.
Yeah.
But it's not about reaching the end of that path, it's about dying upon it.
Exactly.
It's so true, because it's so hard. Because throughout that journey, you will of course get temptations, you will of course get distractions, and it takes a special person to stay firm. And those temptations could come in the form of like financial success. And all of a sudden, it's like you think, all right, let me just focus on this for the next year and then come back to it, and then you never get back to it. It's scary, man.
There's one thing, I went to a talk maybe 2-3 months ago where the teacher, he said, the people that get the success in this life and the money and the finance, like I struggle with this a lot, where I would look at someone that had it all and be like, wow, he's living the life. But then the teacher said something that really stuck with me, and he's like, the success that they're getting in this life is a distraction for the afterlife, and that is truly the greatest loss. And when he said that, I think, wow, like it really blew my mind when he said that. And it, yeah,
they have an amazing way of looking at at different things and their perspective, isn't it?
100%.
Where do you feel you need the most support?
So as the eldest sibling, this is gonna get deep. I have 2 brothers and 3 sisters, and as the eldest sibling, are you the eldest sibling?
I am a older sibling.
Okay,
but a majority of my siblings are older than me.
So as the eldest sibling, when you ask what support would I need the most, I think. Let me.
You're the eldest sibling.
I'm the eldest, yeah. Like growing up, I never was afforded to like make mistakes, or I was always the example to be, and in that sense, like growing up, it was really difficult for me, really difficult, because I felt like I had to be this role model for my brothers and sisters, and I failed miserably, by the way. I was never that type of person to them, and the support that I would need the most is understanding, like from my mother, my father, my siblings. I think that's understanding of why I was like that when I was younger. I think that's the one thing that sticks to mind.
Yeah, I can imagine older siblings having a lot of pressure. I was never the eldest. I've not been the eldest, but I can only imagine that you're like this intermediary between parents and siblings. You're halfway between both.
Yeah.
You're a support for your parents in many ways, and you're helping raise siblings, but then you're also a child of your parents,
Mhm.
just like your siblings.
Mhm.
And so it's an extremely sensitive like role to play.
Very sensitive, and you're not afforded to maybe make the mistakes that your siblings are
Sure,
doing, and
sure.
when they're doing it, it's like nothing, but when then you've done it, it's the end of the world. And I guess it's the example thing that comes into it as well.
Yeah, I guess I've always been that sibling that's been able to get away with things. You know what I mean?
I'm the complete opposite.
Yeah. Alright, go on.
One for you. What are you excited to go home to?
The obvious answer is obviously my children. My children, my family, of course. And it's the first thing that comes to mind. But I think I should try and like peel a layer off and go deeper. Or let's say, for example, if I couldn't say my family, because that would be too obvious of an answer, then I would say I suppose just like the feeling of being home. There's no place like home. And it's like that feeling of when you go on an amazing holiday and you have such an amazing time, but then you come back and the moment you walk through the door, you think there's no other place I'd rather be than in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the security you get in your own house. It's the comfort you get in your own house. It's the place you can be yourself the most. The me I am at home is a me that almost nobody outside of my home will ever see. And that feels nice. It feels like there's a part of me that I can share only with those inside my house. And any guest who comes in my house gets to see that side of me as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the fact that I'm in my house and I'm comfortable. And I hope it's a good side of me. I hope that it's a side of me that people enjoy. I at home, I become the entertainer more, you know? And
You say it like you're already not.
yeah, well, I guess at home I'm like times 100. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really just like a performer for my children and my family, and I see my role, you know, when I'm in a good mood, to be someone who lifts the mood, and it reminds me of the narration by Umar ibn Khattab. I don't know the authenticity of it, so I want to be careful because I heard it so many years ago. But it was like, be like a child at home.
Yeah. Be like a child. Be like a playful child with your family. Yeah. I've heard that as well.
I hope I'm like that. So I like that part of being at home. Yeah. Let's see what we can give you. Let's see. I want to give you one that I feel like I wouldn't be able to figure the answer out to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Struggling there.
No, because I think I would know some of these answers.
Yeah.
Or it's things that we've spoken about.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Or some of them I feel like the answer would be football.
Trying to steer away from that.
Yeah. And some of them are about me, so I'm trying to not go for those ones. I think we're going to be close to one. Okay, not that one. Okay, I'm going to go with one of the next few.
How about I pick out a random one of mine, and if you like it.
No, I feel like I'm close. I'm almost finished, to be honest. That's a good one, actually. Okay. I think I'm going to go for this, or what choice could you make? Okay, let's go with it. What are you not being honest with yourself about? That's a good question.
What am I not being honest with myself about? I tell myself that I don't have time to memorize more Quran, and that's the biggest thing for me. I tell myself I work X amount of hours, I've got to train, I've got to go to the gym.
Yeah.
But then when I actually think about it, I actually have I will always have 3 to 4 hours minimum a day where I can
Of course, yeah.
do some revision on the Quran, and that's something that scares me, because I sell myself like short in that department, and that's my biggest worry, and that's something I'm not really totally honest with myself about.
You know, all of us are like that. But I think that one of the beneficial advices I got was from a brother, one of the students of Sheikh Jamal, who said that Sheikh Jamal, what he said was, make Quran, don't put Quran in your spare time. Start with the Quran.
I was literally listening to a video, that same
Really?
video. Yeah.
And he said, and then you see the barakah, and it's true.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, when you do it, time goes by, not slowly, but you see
Barakah.
the barakah in your time. You're able to do anything you want in the day. It's crazy.
It's true. Very true.
Pick one up for you.
Yeah. Why not? We're having a good time. What else would you be doing on a Wednesday evening? It's the 1st of September today.
1st of September, yeah. I feel like, 1st of September for me
Yeah.
is like my new year. It's like...
Be careful now.
No, not like that. Because with the summer and stuff, like I find myself
of course,
from September to, I'd say, about March is where I disappear from people. That's how I structure my life.
I like September because it's kind of like the start of the winter. I like the winter.
Yeah. Winter or summer?
Winter.
Winter, same.
Yeah, I love the winter.
Mm-hmm.
It's just cozy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I could tell you're wearing a hoodie. You like me?
Yeah. I like winter fashion's always better than summer
That's
fashion.
true.
It layers up and
That's true. It's also expensive, as we saw.
yeah, yes. I've got one here. What about keeping in touch with people do you find the hardest?
If I'm honest, I feel like when someone messages me on WhatsApp and I see, I'm having a conversation with them and then I see what they've said and I process the information and no more action is required, I leave it at that. But
Do you like-
that's very rude because
do you mentally reply but you don't physically
that's
reply?
exactly correct.
That's how it would be. Like it'll be a week later and I think, didn't I message you?
Yeah, there's
But
so
you
many
haven't.
people that happens with it. Yeah. There's so many people that happens with it. So yeah, it's really tough. That's something I find hard.
Mhm.
Generally, my phone, I find it hard. Like my relationship with my phone has become like weaker and weaker, and I'm really happy about that. To be honest, that I can leave my phone in other rooms now.
Yeah.
I can go away from it for lengthy periods of time. I'm getting better at it. I'm not the best, but I'm getting better at it. And I can't put my finger on why it's been like that.
There was one tip that someone told me where it's really helped me, and it was like, say you're going to the masjid for salah, maghrib salah or isha salah. How many of us take our phones with us?
Yeah, of course.
But what the brother said to me was, leave your phone at home and say it's, so for example, maghrib and isha is 8 o'clock and 9:30, the masjid, for example. Go to the masjid for that hour and a half. Don't take your phone and just like detox from the world, like detox from that social world, and you'll find so much more barakah, and like you're not on your phone like in the masjid, and you can actually pick up the mushaf and you can actually revise, like, because how many times for me personally have I been trying to memorize on the mushaf and then I see a notification on my phone and I look at it. I don't go to my phone, but I just look to see who it is.
So it's true.
So for me, that's been a very good tip for me
It's
that
very
I've
true.
used.
Very true. Yeah, it's very true. Okay, I got my last question for you.
Yeah.
What's a win you could really do with right now and why?
This is going to be funny. Marriage.
Of course. You haven't even spoken about marriage.
I had to bring it up.
24-year-old Bilal.
I had to bring it up.
Are you close to getting married? How much can you tell us on the podcast? Gonna keep it off there.
Nah, like, alhamdulillah, I'm in the process,
Okay,
if that's what you want to say. But for me, it's something that I've been really wanting to get married young.
Same.
What age is to get married young?
I got married at 22.
That's still fairly young.
It was still young, yeah.
You wanted to get married younger?
I guess so.
Yeah.
You do think to yourself, like, let me just get on with life now. And that starts with starting a family, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
But you're young, 24.
Yeah, but I'm getting to that age where, especially as the eldest sibling.
It's a good age.
Yeah, very good age. For me, like, that's what I think. But
So what are you looking forward to in marriage?
freedom.
That's nice.
As in, not to say I'm restricted where I'm living now with my family, but as the eldest sibling with a lot of siblings, free time is so hard to come by.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that I don't enjoy time with them, but I get home, for example, like after a long day of work and football and whatever, I come home and I just don't have that time. I don't have 5-10 minutes to myself, or even with one person. And I haven't had that for the last 5 or 6 years, and it does drain me. And for me, like, what I'm looking forward to is like being a best friend with someone as well, like on that level. That's one thing I'm really, really looking forward to. And
yeah, like having someone who you can speak to about anything at all.
Yes. And I don't feel like I have that at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's something that would really help me, like, moving forward with my life, and just someone to have a shoulder to lean on. That's not as a man, obviously, but
No, of course, bro. And it does so much for your mental health, having that.
yeah.
You know, having someone that you can lean on, talk to about anything and find support in. And there's something, you know, this sounds almost a bit off key, but there's something healing about helping others as well. And you get to do that day in, day out in marriage. You know, you can speak to somebody about their problems and suggest possible solutions, and sometimes those solutions work, and then all of a sudden that's something that you had a hand in, and that feels nice. And when it feels nice, you feel happy because you've helped someone with a really specific problem that might be a really private problem that they wouldn't tell many other people about. Might be an intimate problem that, like, you know, only like their family know and stuff like that, and you've been able to have a hand in helping them with it. So that's nice as well, being on the other end of it, you being someone who can rely on you.
You're really selling this marriage stuff to me.
No,
Inshallah khair.
It's only amazing things about marriage, bro. I have nothing negative to say about marriage at all.
That's beautiful to hear, man.
So I think you'll love it. How close are we? What's the timeline looking like? We can lock it in by the end of the year?
Yeah, that's the plan,
Inshallah.
inshallah. That's the plan.
Allah
Allahu a'lam, but yeah, I mean, thank you.
Barak.
I appreciate that, bro. Thank you.
So where are you from, bro? You're Algerian?
So I'm half Algerian, and my mother's German. So dad's
Algerian and German?
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
You never heard of that mix before?
No, is it common?
I wouldn't say it's common. I know a few.
Can you speak German?
I can't, no.
No.
Nah, that's
Bilal.
big disappointment from me.
Very big disappointment. I've actually got an entry level in German.
No way.
Yeah.
So you're shaming me up right now.
I can't speak a word of it. It was back in school. I could say like Guten Tag.
Biggest.
I can say Tag, which is hello and hi. That's about where it ends, to be honest.
What did you think?
How did you say how are you?
Vigist.
Okay.
How are you? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
But that's about as far as I can go.
Yeah, yeah. We had to do a language or something, and for some reason, I'm reading German and French actually, and I don't know any of those languages. I don't know how I got by. Yeah. I've never been good with languages, but I really want to.
Yeah. Are you trying to like learn Arabic properly?
Yeah. I was actually studying for 2 years, and at the end of it you get a diploma in Arabic, and I didn't do my test because I was like so confident that I would flop it. So I can my level of Arabic is like I can conversate badly, but conversate but badly. Like I remember, I'm a bit better now, but I remember when Umrah a few years back, and I was speaking to this old Arabic couple with man and woman, and they were like our grandparents kind of thing, and they were from France, but they were Arabs, so they could only speak either French or Arabic, but they could speak Fusha, or I was speaking Fusha to them anyway. So I don't know. I'm the future, and it was so funny because, like, you know, they would say things like, I don't know, like I was trying to explain because my brother, I couldn't like speak or understand any Arabic, and so I was kind of like, we were just, you know when you're in Umrah and it's so busy and you're in the food court in Makkah.
I wouldn't know. I've never been.
No, Bilal, we'll go inshallah.
Inshallah, we'll go. Honestly, I would love
we
that.
really want to make a freshly grounded Umrah trip happen with the whole team. So
Current
inshallah,
events team.
But the whole team. We've got people who work at freshly grounded that we've never met because they work virtually and stuff, and so we'd love to do that. So
SubhanAllah, make sure you include me in on that trip, inshallah.
No, definitely, inshallah, man. Nice big trip. But okay, so opposite Makkah there's the clock tower, and in there is a food court.
Yeah.
And it's got but it's where everybody goes to eat, and so it's always packed. And so if you can get a seat, you're lucky. Like, so we found a seat and it was next to this couple, and so we're speaking to them, and I would say stuff. I was like, back then I was like trying to explain. They were like asking where I'm from, and I would say like, it would be really bad. I'd be like, I was speaking up me and my brother. I was like, نحن من بريطانيا لكن I think I was like ummuk, like your mom min Pakistan, like something like that, bro. I was like لكن ummuk min Pakistan wa abi min Pakistan, and I was trying to explain that but my mom was born here, so it's my dad's. I was using everything I knew, like just there was a lot of like lakin, walakin, and like yeah, but we
Just fillers.
yeah, but I managed to conversate with this couple enough to like tell them like who we are, like I think I said like huwa akhi and stuff like that, and anyway I'm a bit better now. And but I can't and I can understand better than I can speak, obviously,
Of course.
but even when I can't understand incredibly well, like if someone's speaking a lot, like what I like is being able to watch an Arabic lecture where there's a translator,
Yes.
because I can be like, oh, I clocked that he said that, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that's what it meant, that, and then you kind of get pieces together.
What I love is going to khutbahs as well that are Arabic, and then they do like an English. So you know how they do Arabic
Yeah,
first,
that's a good
then
point.
English.
I haven't in recent years been to an Arabic khutbah, so I don't even know how I'll do with that. But the end result I'm getting to here is that I'm not good enough to teach, which is frustrating because I always want my kids to learn Arabic.
Yeah.
And so the first 3 weeks of Zakaria's life, I spoke to him solely in Arabic.
MashaAllah.
And then I flopped because I just clocked that there's things that I can't say. Like, okay, I remember one time, like, you know, the skirting, like, on the floor.
Yeah.
How do you say skirting in Arabic?
I couldn't tell you.
There's obviously a word. There has to be a word for everything because people conversate, but
Of course.
I don't know. So I was thinking this is not a long-term plan. I have to learn properly. And my teachers, I think, very upset with me that because I should be fluent, but I never applied myself. They always said that it's like 30% in the classroom and 70% at home, or even more. And I would just do the 30% in the classroom. I would never do anything at home and stuff like that. And so I've only got myself to blame, but I have a dream and I ask Allah to make it easy for me the Arabic language because I would love to be fluent in it. But what about yourself?
I'm pretty much the same as you, bro. May Allah make it easier for us both, because it's the language of the Quran as well.
Yeah.
And like to have that in your arsenal is the best thing you can have. You, like for me, if I wanted to learn like German or French, like yeah, that's all well and good, but if we don't go back to the roots of the Islam and Arabic, then there's no point really. But I would love to like get to that level. And you're right, it's 70% in the classroom.
Yeah.
And you 30%, sorry, in the classroom, 70% like actually conversating with people. So I guess I've just got to pick up the phone to my Arabic friends and
It's true, bro. I'll tell you one thing about Arabic, because people say it's really easy. And then you start and you're like, this is so hard because it's so much more complex than English. And then there's a time that comes where it all of a sudden becomes easy and it just hits you.
just clicks.
And so people are right, like it is, because it's someone once told me Arabic is like maths. I was like, what? And it so is, bro. Like it's so like maths and the English language is not. English language feels to me like it's like memorization. You memorize a word, you know that word. And it's like, with Arabic, it's so amazing because once you've clocked the formula, bro, you're there.
Yeah.
So I feel like now I've clocked the formula, but now I need the words, like the more vocab. But it's stunning because once you know the root word of something, you can pretty much say many sentences around it. And then there's loads of like connective words, like I guess in the English language. But I think what's hard in the English language is, like you're just memorizing words and we've been speaking in it, and so you get used to it. But with Arabic, if you spoke it, it's a lot more eloquent, but there's a lot more, it's also easier. I guess what I'm saying is that formula thing, like, you know, you add a ya at the beginning, you add a wow and a noon at the end, and then the root word is the same, and then all of a sudden you're saying they are doing this, and it's just whatever the thing is in the middle, or like, and so on. So I think that's quite cool about it. You don't need to know much outside of the formula. Once you have the formula, which is actually a bit easier than it's very hard at the beginning, but once you've clocked the formula, it's more trying to consume as much Arabic and talk as much as possible, and that's hard. I found it very hard to get comfortable to have conversation. I still find it hard to have a conversation.
Oh, me too, man.
Because I feel very shy and embarrassed.
Mhm.
But you have to look past that, and
You have to. I think you have to go through that embarrassment.
you have to go through the embarrassment.
And it's not even embarrassment. Like, you might think you're embarrassing yourself.
Yeah.
Like I've had this with my friends where I tried to speak it, and I think I'm embarrassed. I'm getting embarrassed, but they're like, bro, like,
Yeah,
I don't
like,
feel
well
no
done.
way about
Yeah,
it. Like,
yeah.
I love that you speak Arabic to me.
Same,
It's just
same.
in your mind.
Yeah, we do need to improve that.
100%.
Maybe we can hold each other accountable.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. All right, I think you got one last one.
Let's go.
It's been a lovely episode, man. I've really enjoyed having a chat with you.
Honestly, man, I appreciate it. Well, you know where, like I said, the off air, when you called me, or when I called you, I thought we were just going to speak about current events and what's the schedule for this week.
Yeah.
And then when you actually asked me, like, do you want to do an episode? I'm like, what? Do you mean current events this week? He was like, no, like a standalone episode.
Yeah, no, I should actually mention to people that the reason we're doing this episode is because Bilal has been on current events for the last 4 weeks, and it's been really nice to have you on current events, and is the Freshly Grounded family and audience, who are the Freshly Grounded family, the tribe, have kind of got to
Brother bros.
know the Brother Bros. Like all these names, they've all got to know you, and so it would make sense to like have an episode with you. So I guess there's always something that you can.
But
refer
like
back to.
for me, like 2 years ago, when I start, like maybe 2-3 years ago, when I started watching this, like to actually have an episode, like is surreal to me. And
Oh man, that means a lot.
I really appreciate
That
like
means a lot.
you coming.
No, likewise, I appreciate you giving me your time.
Jazakallah khair. Let's have a look. Trying to find the deep one.
It's fine. The great thing about a podcast is that it's long form audio, so
Mhm.
I think people probably appreciate the long pauses after like so much talking, like so they can have a bit of a mental break, and then like we can. I used to get really scared of the long pauses and stuff in the podcast, right? In the early days.
But for
I'd
me, like,
overtalk.
not even in podcasts, but like in general, I can't. You know, when you're with someone,
Yeah, and silence.
you know that silence that no one
Yeah.
says anything, but it's good silence. Like,
Yeah, I
you don't
find that
feel.
hard.
For me, I love that.
I find that hard.
Really.
Yeah, but I've been getting better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know I need to. Like for a podcaster, and considering that's my job,
Of course.
I feel like I'm the worst conversationist.
What are you avoiding lately? Why?
Oh, that's a good question. I'll actually give you a really simple answer. Actually, not all answers have to be deep.
Of course.
I've got an ankle injury,
Yeah.
and it's really so basically I got the injury about 6 weeks ago at football. I kind of rolled on my ankle,
Mhm.
and at the time I thought, I feel like I've damaged my ankle here, because I felt something. But if anybody's ever rolled on their ankle before, and I'm sure you have,
I've done it plenty. I
You-
did it 3 months ago.
yeah, you get this really big lump around it, and you can't walk on it, and you have to go to the hospital often, and you're on crutches and stuff for a few weeks. But generally, it's not too dangerous. It's just like you have to ice and elevate
Yeah.
and stuff. So that didn't happen, which is weird because I've rolled my ankle before, and that's exactly what's happened. People around me have rolled on their ankle before. It's always the same thing.
Mm-mm-mm.
Because that didn't happen, I was not as worried about it. But I did, when it initially happened, instantly felt like a really sharp pain, and it went instantly.
Yeah.
And that was it, bro. Then next week we did football again, the week after we did football again, so on and so forth. And every now and again, maybe like if I was walking upstairs for a lengthy period of time, something, I'd maybe start feeling a bit of a twinge.
Mm.
Recently, bro, it's got so much worse. And the pain, like some days in the evening, it's on like a 9 after like a day of like doing things. And now my son Khalil, the way he sleeps the easiest is by when I'm walking. So I'll be walking with him in my arms. And so I'm doing so much walking, and like I'm working on the ankle and stuff. And so recently, bro, I've been in like excruciating pain some evenings. And I just kind of was like, why have I been avoiding all this time, like going to doctors? Because I could have, I guess the reason I was avoiding it was not because I was scared, but simply because I thought it would get better over time. But it's been getting worse over time.
Mhm.
So I've actually got a doctor's appointment tomorrow. Yeah.
I think what's the word I'm looking for? Chronic ankle pain and overuse. So like
I think I just never rested it when it happened.
Yeah, so overuse injury, and that sometimes can be worse than an actual like impact to the ankle.
Yeah.
And
I'm just hoping I haven't like torn a ligament or something.
I think the fact that you're still walking,
yeah.
I think it's not a torn ligament or anything like that.
Fine.
Wow, who am I to say? But I've rolled my ankle so many times.
Yeah, I don't know what a torn ligament is. So,
Yeah.
but my brain for some reason tells me broken ankle is the worst thing. Underneath broken would be like fractured.
Yeah,
Below fractured would be like
sprained,
a torn ligament.
Yeah, torn ligament.
And then sprained,
Mhm.
and then bruised.
Mhm.
And I feel like it's not bruised because it hurts more than a bruise.
Mhm.
I feel like sprained are short term.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a fracture. So I'm like, maybe I've done a minor tear to a ligament.
Because there's when you sprain a ligament, there's like 3 different grades. So you have grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Grade 3 being obviously I think that keeps you out like totally immobilized for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
So you might be playing with like a grade 1 or grade 2 ankle.
definitely not grade 2.
No. Hopefully.
I'm going to self-diagnose myself with a grade 1 ligament tear. I've got a doctor's appointment tomorrow, so I'll keep you updated. However, my doctor's appointment is just a phone appointment, and then it's going to be a bit long because a phone appointment, then then what they'll probably do is refer me, or either see me physically, which might take another few days, then refer me to a scan, which will take 2 to 4 weeks to get. Then a scan, results maybe 10 days later. By that time, I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm not missing football for that long because I have been missing it, to be honest. It's nice to be active. But
Who'd you play with?
I just like either like the boys in like we played actually with like Abdul Hakim and
really?
and stuff, but not regularly. Regularly it tends to be with like all the boys for my in-laws.
Mhm.
My in-laws have like a lot of boys in my in-laws, like and they're all like the same age. Because my father-in-law has a brother who's like very similar in age to him, and he had 4 boys along with Berdick, and or maybe even 5. I can't off the top of my head, I think 4. And then my father-in-law himself has a few boys, and so when you add those together, like those boys and then their cousins, and then the in-laws as in me and like their sisters' husbands and stuff like that, it makes a 10-man thing. So we've been going regularly.
He's got his own 11-a-side team.
Yeah, man. So
Inshallah.
the thing is though, bro, the funny thing is that there's a really fast way to approach this, to skip all of that, skip the telephone appointment, skip
private.
no, literally just going to A&E, and they'll
right.
just give me a scan today. But the problem is sitting in A&E for 4 hours so they can scan my ankle. I can't be bothered. I'd rather just wait for my appointment.
I've been there. One time I sprained my ankle. I got to the hospital around 5 p.m. I was there till 4 a.m.
Yeah. Oh, I've done that before.
Crazy.
Yeah,
And you're there
I had asthma growing up, so
oh really?
there's sometimes, bro, you'd have your asthma attack. Ambulance would come to the door, and then they take you to the hospital, and you're waiting so long that you're better. I just want to go home now.
By the time it's to be seen.
Yeah.
There's
Have you got asthma?
I don't, alhamdulillah, no.
Really thing about asthma attacks is that it's hard to differentiate between an asthma attack and when you're hyperventilating.
Mhm.
Hyperventilating, I believe, is when like you're just like panicking over the fact that you can't breathe fully, and then you can't breathe more. It gets worse, but it's only because of your panic.
Mm-hmm.
And hyperventilating basically gets better by stopping panicking.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you feel like you're having an asthma attack, but then you are hyperventilating because of it, and then you don't know what the problem is. You go to hospital, and all of a sudden you're waiting so long, it bores you, and you're not hyperventilating anymore, and you're fine. So,
SubhanAllah. I've never struggled with asthma, alhamdulillah.
alhamdulillah. Bilal Sayoud, it's been amazing having you on the
pleasure's been
podcast.
mine,
Thank you
man.
so much. I wish we could have spoken for longer. However, it is 9:49 p.m. on a weekday, and that's usually my bedtime is like 9:30. So
me and
I've
you
already
both.
stretched it. Yeah. Oh, you're an early sleeper.
I am.
Oh, that's good.
Have to be always, man. Like
Yeah.
it's very difficult, especially when Isha comes in late,
Sure. Yeah. Oh,
and then you're just
really
waiting.
tough.
You're just waiting there, or like waiting to pray, and then it's like 11 o'clock.
Bro.
But when it's winter and it's like 6 p.m. Isha, I'm loving it.
Yeah, man. Same here. There's a lot of ni'mah in winter, man. So
Of
alhamdulillah.
course.
But it's been amazing having you on, and I hope that you can come down more regularly. Also, I know that we've spoken off air about current events, and the fact that you stepped in for 4 weeks for a deal was amazing, and the fact that you're also willing to jump in whenever kind of we need you, and I suppose it's like a temporary farewell now. First of all, you're always welcome in and around the Freshly Grounded team, absolutely whenever. Doors always open for you. But secondly, on a personal note, I want to say thank you to you for stepping in when it went out and for gelling so well with the team. And it literally felt like we've known you for such a long time.
It was so easy to do with Zach Bendif.
He's an amazing guy, I know. The Freshly Grounded vision started 5 years ago-ish, and we didn't know specifically where we wanted to take it, but we knew the impact we wanted others to have. That's all we knew. And you've made a larger impact than just being like someone we know. Like, you've been a part of Freshly Grounded, and everything we do, whether it's through the game, through these episodes, through current events, or through the people we employ, it's always the end goal is to impact others and give them a better life somehow.
Yeah.
Whether that's the audience listening and taking a gem from it, or having entertainment that doesn't go against their morals, or staff members who can have a halal environment, or like a situation where, for example, they can rely on like their finances not being with riba and so on.
Yeah.
So you've actively had a role to play in that, and it means more to me personally as Faisal than you would know, because it means that somebody, i.e. in this case you, has seen the vision that I have, and clearly I haven't made it yet, but you've taken a punt on it, and you risked your honor, your like character, your like you being on camera for our brand. You've risked all of that because you believe in the vision that we originally created Freshly Grounded
for.
So
Me,
that means
bro,
a lot.
like if only you knew the impact that this has had on me, like with everything in my life, with Dean, with the episodes that I've listened to, for example, the one with Dan Juma, like the impact that you've had, and I'm sure you've had on a lot of people. I wish you knew how big that impact was, and like for me to actually sit here with you and be introduced with you, like it's the honor is all mine, man. Honestly, the pleasure's mine.
Well, I look forward to the Umrah trip, inshallah.
Honestly, that would be the pinnacle, inshallah.
Yeah, we got to take you to the there's really nice, I think it's an Indonesian place in the corner of the clock tower.
Okay.
It's the cheapest place there. It's not one of the usual, but it's like the nice. It's like you get so much value for money. So I'm going to take you there, inshallah. It's really filling as well. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to episode 246 of Freshly Grounded. I have a secret to let you guys know. Episode 250 is coming up, and of course we might be doing something special, so please do keep an eye on our social media, because we might hopefully inshallah be doing something to celebrate our 250th episode, which is only 4 short weeks away. I've been Faisal Chowdhury, a tired Faisal Chowdhury now, because it's almost 10 p.m. on a weekday, and I will see you guys on next week's episode, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.